They thought humans would stay out of their war. They thought we were too small, too young, too fragile. But when the galaxy burned, and every empire fell to ashes, one world watched in silence. Earth. We saw the war that never ended. We saw how pride and power devoured entire civilizations. And while they fought, we learned. We adapted. We prepared. Because that's what humanity does. When the universe forgets us, we wait. When it underestimates us, we rise. This is the story of the Age of Silence, of the galaxy that forgot about us, and the moment we reminded them who we are. So sit back, turn up the volume, and listen carefully, because once you hear this story, you'll never look at humanity the same way again. Long before humanity looked up and dreamed of the stars, the galaxy burned. Civilizations rose and fell so many times that even their ruins turned to dust. Empires that once claimed eternity were reduced to whispers between the stars. And what survived were stories. Stories told by those who endured, by those who crawled from the ashes of extinction and remembered. Among those stories, none was more feared than the tale of the Krell. The Krell Empire wasn't born. It was forged, hammered by war, tempered by conquest. Their homeworld, Krell Prime, was a world of fire and storm. Volcanoes painted the skies red. Lightning split mountains in half. On that world, mercy was extinction. Compassion was death. And so, the Krell learned to survive through domination. They conquered themselves long before they conquered the stars. When their first ships left orbit, they looked out at the galaxy and saw not wonder, not peace, but prey. World after world fell. Entire species bent the knee or burned. The Krell believed they were chosen, the rightful heirs of existence itself. But even predators grow arrogant, and one day, they found prey that fought back. From the ashes of their destruction rose something new, the Galactic Council, the crystalline Orovians, the diplomatic Ethrani, the living ships of the Vartel, all bound together by one desperate truth. Alone, they would die. Together, they might survive. And for a time, they did. The Council built fleets that spanned systems, armies that turned the tides of war. For a century, peace returned. Trade reopened. Stars once scarred by battle shone free again. But peace is never permanent, not when hatred sleeps beneath the surface. The Krell returned, stronger, hungrier, evolved. Their vengeance became a black tide that swept across the spiral arms. And thus began the war without dawn. 300 years of endless war. 3 centuries where victory and defeat meant nothing, only survival. Entire worlds turned to glass. Generations born and died beneath skies of fire. The galaxy forgot what peace looked like. And somewhere, in a quiet arm of that dying galaxy, orbiting a small yellow star, a species of primates built their first starship. Humanity called it Odyssey 1. We thought it was the beginning of an age of discovery. But when we reached beyond our star, we didn't find wonder. We found ruins, graveyards of gods, and a war so old that even memory feared to speak its name. The Council found us twice, emissaries of peace, offering alliance, knowledge, and technology. Twice, Earth refused, not out of arrogance, out of wisdom, because we saw the same thing they couldn't. A war that had no end, a fire that had no purpose but to burn. So we stepped back. We watched. We waited. And in the silence between stars, humanity began to prepare. They thought we would stay out of their war. They thought we were small, insignificant, unready. But in the dark, beneath our quiet skies, something ancient awoke. The same instinct that had carried us through every age, from the cave fire to the atom, whispered a promise to the stars. When the time comes, we will be ready. They thought humans would stay out of their war. They were wrong. After humanity refused the Council's call, the galaxy forgot about us. To them, Earth was a minor world, a quiet species, untested and unimportant. They believed we would watch their war from afar, too afraid to interfere. They were right about one thing. We did watch. But what they never understood was how closely. Behind closed doors, the nations of Earth united under a single banner. The Earth Defense Coalition. Its public mission was exploration. Its true purpose was preparation. In underground command centers and hidden orbital stations, humanity began its quiet work. Engineers studied alien wreckage salvaged from deep space. Physicists reverse-engineered fragments of plasma drives and shield emitters. Soldiers trained in silence, drilling for an enemy no one would admit existed. The project was called Operation Breakpoint. Its architect was Admiral Patricia Hayes. Admiral Hayes was not a soldier of rage. She was calm, analytical, relentless. She had seen the footage, the destruction of Council fleets, the helplessness of their commanders, the predictability of their tactics. And she saw what no one else could see. The galaxy was fighting an ancient war with ancient thinking. Every strategy followed rules. Every decision followed protocol. The Krell expected that. Hayes realized the truth. Humanity's greatest weapon was unpredictability. In the years that followed, Earth became two worlds. One that smiled for the stars, and one that sharpened its blade in the dark. Civilian fleets spread across nearby systems, founding colonies like New Portland, Harmony Station, and Green Valley. Peaceful names for peaceful dreams. But beneath those dreams, the machine of war turned. Fusion drives were rebuilt. Railguns replaced plasma weapons. Artificial intelligence evolved, learning not to assist, but to command, to think, to react. Humanity built ships that no one knew existed, hidden in the shadows of asteroids and buried beneath Martian soil. Each one stronger, faster, deadlier than anything the galaxy had ever seen. For 3 years, humanity remained silent. We watched the war unfold across the stars like spectators at the end of the world. We watched Council worlds fall. We watched the Krell consume system after system. And we learned. Every battle broadcast became a lesson. Every defeat became data. We were the students of extinction. Then, without warning, the silence was broken. 3 Council envoys arrived at Earth's orbit. Ambassador Thelnox of the Ethrani, Commander Zareth of the Orovians, High Counselor Mector of the Vartel. They came as diplomats, but their presence carried the weight of desperation. Captain Lucas Grant, commander of the battleship Valiant, was chosen to receive them. Grant was young for his rank, sharp, patient, and impossible to intimidate. He met them in orbit, aboard the Council's gleaming envoy ship. Thelnox spoke first, his voice like crystal and sorrow. Humanity, he said, the Krell advance again. They strike our core worlds. Entire sectors fall. The Council cannot hold. We ask you once more, stand with us. Grant listened in silence. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez, stood beside him, her eyes fixed on the holographic stars burning red. When Thelnox finished, Grant's reply was calm. Earth grieves for your losses, he said. But we are not yet ready to fight your war. Mector's crystalline form flickered with anger. You cannot remain isolated forever. If the Krell prevail, your world will burn next. Grant didn't flinch. Then let's hope it never comes to that. The envoys left in silence. And as their ships vanished into hyperspace, Earth returned to its quiet watch. But Admiral Hayes knew better. She had seen the flicker of movement along the frontier. The Krell had found us. The warning came too late. Hours after the envoys departed, 3 human colonies were attacked. New Portland burned first. 12 Krell warships descended without warning, tearing through orbital defenses and raining plasma onto the surface. Harmony Station's docks were vaporized. Green Valley's farmlands turned to fire. The Krell had come not to conquer, but to send a message, to show humanity its place. Instead, they revealed our power. Admiral Hayes gave the order she had waited 3 years to speak. Activate Operation Breakpoint. Across human space, coded transmissions reached hidden fleets. Shipyards that had been silent for years came alive. In the darkness above Mars, the Titan, the Guardian, and the Resolute came online. Engines roared. Weapons charged. Crews awakened from standby. Within hours, the human fleets jumped to combat. For the first time in recorded history, humanity fought a galactic enemy. The battle was chaos. Plasma torpedoes lit up the void. Human shields, reinforced by adaptive field harmonics, absorbed impacts that should have vaporized entire ships. Railgun slugs, dense as tungsten moons, ripped through Krell armor like paper. Swarms of autonomous drones danced through space, learning and adapting faster than the enemy could react. When the smoke cleared, the Krell were retreating. For the first time in centuries, the Predator had been hunted. In the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Hayes stood before the holomap of victory. Her chief of staff, Colonel Gregory Martin, called it vengeance. Hayes shook her head. No, she said. This is a demonstration. A warning. Around her, The room fell silent. They all knew what it meant. The age of watching was over. Across the colonies, stories began to spread. Commander Danny Foster of the Titan, who laughed in the face of Krell dreadnoughts. Commander Rachel Torres, who led her Marines into the heart of an enemy cruiser and captured it intact. And Captain Lucas Grant, the man whose refusal had bought humanity the time to prepare. Within days, Grant was promoted to Commodore. His new mission: secure human space and retaliate. Before he left, Hayes gave him one final order. "Do not just defend," she said. "Teach them fear." From that day on, the galaxy no longer saw humanity as observers. They saw us for what we had always been: hunters waiting for the right moment to strike. They thought we were watchers, but we were never watching for peace. We were watching for weakness. The galaxy had never seen humans fight. Not like this. When the Krell attacked the frontier worlds, they believed humanity would crumble. They had crushed hundreds of civilizations before. Why should Earth be any different? They did not understand what they had unleashed. In the weeks that followed, humanity struck back. The first counterattack came from Commodore Lucas Grant and the Third Fleet. Their mission was simple: find the enemy, strike hard, leave nothing standing. Grant led from the front. He didn't hide behind command ships or long-range fleets. He believed in seeing his enemy up close. He called it eye contact. Under his command, the fleet jumped into the Nexer 7 system, a Krell supply hub defended by a fortress moon and 3 dreadnoughts. The Krell expected a direct assault. They got something far worse. Grant divided his fleet into 9 strike groups, using stealth drones disguised as asteroids to blind enemy sensors. When the humans attacked, they came from every direction at once. The Krell never had time to react. Human ships moved like wolves in a pack, fast, coordinated, relentless. Railgun slugs tore through dreadnought armor. Drone swarms overwhelmed enemy point defense systems. Boarding pods slammed into hulls, delivering Marines in powered exosuits. Within hours, the fortress moon was silent. The victory sent shockwaves across the galaxy. For 3 centuries, the Krell had been unstoppable. Now, for the first time, they were bleeding. And everyone saw who had drawn first blood. Ambassador Thelnox watched the battle recordings in disbelief. Commander Zareth, ever the tactician, replayed the footage again and again. "They fight like predators," Zareth said. "Efficient, precise, without hesitation, without honor." Thelnox replied quietly, "Perhaps honor is what cost us this war." Back on Earth, Admiral Hayes studied the reports. Operation Breakpoint had proven itself. Humanity's technology was no longer experimental, it was dominant. But she understood what came next. The Krell would retaliate. In the months that followed, they did. Entire fleets poured into human territory, determined to erase this new threat. But the humans had changed the rules of war. They didn't hold the line. They didn't defend. They attacked. Every time the Krell advanced, they found themselves surrounded. Every time they believed they had cornered a human fleet, they discovered they were the ones being hunted. At the Battle of Hades Drift, Commodore Grant used a collapsing star's gravity well to slingshot his ships through enemy formations. At Orion Gate, Commander Rachel Torres led her Marines in zero-G combat, boarding 4 enemy cruisers simultaneously. At Black Meridian, drone swarms coordinated by AI intelligence, Echo 7, fought for 72 hours without pause, adapting faster than the Krell could learn. And yet, victory came at a cost. Every battle left scars. Ships lost. Lives gone. Entire colonies reduced to cinders. Humanity had awakened, but awakening always comes with pain. After one brutal engagement, Grant stood on the observation deck of the Valiant, watching the broken remains of Krell ships drift into the void. Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez joined him. She said softly, "We keep winning, sir. But it feels like we're losing something, too." Grant didn't look away from the stars. "Maybe," he said, "but if we stop now, we'll lose everything." He turned to her then, and for the first time, she saw the fire behind his calm eyes. "This isn't about revenge," he said. "It's about survival. We don't fight because we want to. We fight because no one else can." Word of humanity's victories spread across the galaxy. Council worlds that once pitted Earth now watched in awe and fear. The Orovians called us the Silent Flame. The Ethrani named us the Unpredictable. The Krell had another word. They called us the Death that Learns. In the halls of the Galactic Council, debate turned to panic. Who were these humans? How did they develop weapons capable of cutting through Krell defenses in months when the Council had failed for centuries? The truth was simple. We had been watching, learning, adapting. While others clung to tradition, humanity rewrote the rules. We turned desperation into strategy. We turned weakness into innovation. And in doing so, we became the one thing the galaxy had never seen before, a species that evolved in real time. Admiral Hayes met with the Council at last, not as a guest, but as an equal. Ambassador Thelnox welcomed her with cautious respect. Zareth, still skeptical, warned the Council of what was to come. If they can defeat the Krell, he said, what will stop them afterward? Thelnox answered, maybe they will not need to be stopped. Hayes listened in silence. She had no desire to rule, but she understood power, and she knew that if humanity didn't guide what came next, someone else would. That night, she authorized the next phase of Operation Breakpoint, a full-scale expansion, new weapons, new ships, new purpose. Among them was a project so ambitious that even her closest advisors questioned its sanity. The Cascade Drive, a synchronized jump system that allowed entire fleets to move as one. Instantly, silently, everywhere at once. It was impossible, until humans built it. For the Krell, it meant one thing: nowhere was safe. For humanity, it meant something greater: control. The war was no longer about survival. It was about shaping what came after. Admiral Hayes looked at the stars and whispered, we will end this war. Not for them, not for glory, but so no one ever has to fight like this again. And across the stars, fleets prepared for their next move. Humanity had been underestimated. Now, they were unstoppable. The fire had awakened, and the galaxy would never sleep again. The Krell Empire had ruled the stars through fear. For 3 centuries, that fear had kept the galaxy in chains. But fear is a weapon that cuts both ways. And for the first time in history, it turned against its masters. The humans had learned the shape of the war. They had mapped the enemy's routes, their weaknesses, their pride. Where the Council sought diplomacy and the Krell sought domination, humanity sought results. The War of Shadows had begun. Commodore Lucas Grant and the Third Fleet became the spear point of Earth strategy. Their mission was no longer defense. It was disruption. Every Krell world that supplied the front line became a target. Every fortress became a testing ground for new tactics. Grant's fleet didn't move like a traditional armada. They moved like ghosts. They struck without warning, vanished into silence, and appeared again light years away. The Cascade Drive allowed them to dance through hyperspace, attacking in patterns that no algorithm could predict. The Krell called them the Phantoms. Council commanders called them madmen. To Earth, they were heroes. At the siege of Varen's Belt, Grant's fleet appeared inside the Krell formation itself, bypassing their minefields entirely. Within 12 minutes, the battle was over. At the Battle of the Glass Moon, human marines boarded an orbital forge world, shutting it down from within while the fleet held off 6 dreadnoughts. No one believed it was possible until it was done. Thelnox of the Ethrani watched the recordings in silence. He felt something the Council had forgotten centuries ago: hope. But for others, that hope twisted into fear. Commander Zareth studied humanity's growing strength and saw the shape of a new empire rising. He warned the Council, if they can defeat the Krell, what will they become after victory? His words spread through the chambers like poison. Whispers began. The humans were too strong, too fast, too unpredictable. And yet, the galaxy needed them more than ever. Admiral Hayes saw it all unfolding. The Council feared humanity's rise, but they could not stop it. Every system the humans liberated became loyal to them, not to the Council. Not out of politics, out of gratitude. When refugees looked up at the sky, it was not the Council's blue banners they saw. It was the silver insignia of Earth Command. Hayes gathered her staff in the deep command bunker under the Rockies. Colonel Martin stood beside her. He said quietly, "We've become what they feared." Hayes answered, "No, we've become what they needed." For her, the goal had never been conquest. It was conclusion. A war that had lasted 3 centuries could not be negotiated. It could only be ended. She revealed the next step of Operation Breakpoint, a plan known only to a handful of people. Its name was Project Endgame. While fleets fought on the front lines, human scientists under Captain Lisa Monroe developed the final piece. A coordinated strike that could bypass the Krell's entire defensive network. A blow aimed directly at their homeworld, Krell Prime. The plan was impossible. No fleet had ever reached the Krell capital. Even the Council's most powerful dreadnoughts had fallen before they were halfway there. But humanity had something no one else had. The Cascade Drive. With it, the entire fleet could jump in perfect synchronization. No warnings. No defenses. A single move to end the war. Council tacticians called it madness. Hayes called it mercy. Across the front, the humans continued their shadow war. Each battle was a test for Project Endgame. Every success brought them closer to the final strike. Commodore Grant's fleet became legendary. The Krell sent assassins. They sent traps. They even tried to lure him into a false peace negotiation. He turned every attempt into another victory. When the Krell blockaded the border system of Tarion, Grant jumped behind them, surrounding the enemy before they realized he was gone from the other side. His message to Admiral Hayes was short. Confirmed. They can bleed anywhere. In the council chambers, tension reached breaking point. Ambassador Thelnox begged for unity. Zareth demanded control. The debate ended when the Krell launched a counteroffensive that shattered 3 council sectors in a single week. The council had no choice left. They turned to Earth. At the emergency session, for the first time in history, humanity was given command of a combined fleet. Admiral Patricia Hayes stood before them, calm and unyielding. She accepted under one condition. Humanity would lead on its own terms. No committees. No bureaucracy. Only results. The council agreed. And in that moment, the balance of power shifted forever. Earth Command was born. Under its banner, fleets of every species gathered. Orovian crystal ships, Ethrani plasma cruisers, Vartel organic dreadnoughts, and, at their heart, the human battle groups. Steel, determination, and purpose forged together. The galaxy's oldest war was about to face its newest enemy, one that had learned from every mistake ever made. In the dark of space, Grant stood aboard the Valiant as the stars shimmered before the final campaign. Lieutenant Rodriguez approached. She asked, "Do you think this will end it?" Grant answered quietly, "It has to, because if it doesn't, we'll have to become something worse to survive." She looked at him. "Worse." He nodded. "Smarter, faster, colder. Everything they fear we already are." He turned to the stars. "Prepare the fleet. It's time." The final transmission from Admiral Hayes came through the channel. Her voice was steady. "Project Endgame is approved. All fleets synchronize." For a heartbeat, the galaxy held its breath. Then, the Cascade Drive ignited. 500 ships vanished from every corner of space. The war was about to end. Not with diplomacy, not with surrender, but with the silence that follows thunder. The War of Shadows had done its work. Now came the light. When the fleets vanished, the galaxy fell silent. From the core worlds to the edge of known space, sensors blinked out. No one knew where the humans had gone. Not even the Council. Only Admiral Patricia Hayes and Commodore Lucas Grant knew the truth. The fleet wasn't missing. It was in transit. Every ship, every fighter, every drone, moving together through hyperspace like a single living being. Their destination was the heart of darkness itself. Krell Prime. For centuries, the Krell had believed their homeworld untouchable. A fortress wrapped in layers of defense grids, orbital cannons, and shielded moons. No one had ever breached it. No one had even tried. Until now, when the fleet emerged from hyperspace, the Krell sky burned with light. 500 ships appeared out of nothingness, surrounding the planet like the hand of a god. For the first time in living memory, the Predators knew fear. Commodore Grant stood on the bridge of the Valiant, eyes locked on the swirling clouds of Krell Prime. "Target lock confirmed," said Lieutenant Rodriguez. Grant nodded once. "Begin transmission." Across every frequency, in every language, the same message echoed through the void. It came from Earth Command. A woman's voice. Calm, steady, unshakable. It was Admiral Hayes. She said, "Krell Prime, this is humanity. The war ends today. Surrender and live. Resist and perish." For a moment, there was only silence. Then, the Krell responded with fire. Thousands of plasma cannons lit up the dark. Superheated storms engulfed the fleet. But humanity did not retreat. They advanced. Human shields flared blue under impact, absorbing hits that shattered mountains. Railgun salvos cut through the clouds. carving glowing scars across the planet's defenses. Council ships joined the assault, fighting alongside human squadrons in perfect formation. For the first time in 300 years, every species fought as one. The Krell unleashed their greatest weapon, a planetary supercannon capable of destroying moons. Grant ordered the fleet to split formation, drawing its aim away from the command ships. The weapon fired, tearing a rift through space. But humanity was faster. The Cascade Drive engaged mid-battle, shifting the fleet microseconds before impact. The beam struck empty space. Then came the counterstrike. Every railgun, every missile, every plasma lance, fired in unison. Krell Prime trembled. The fortress moon shattered. The orbital cannons fell silent. The supercannon imploded. And at last, the Krell sent a message. It wasn't a plea. It wasn't defiance. It was disbelief. They asked, "Why show mercy when you could destroy us?" Admiral Hayes answered softly, "Because we remember what it means to be afraid. You taught us that. And now we're teaching you what it means to stop." Within the hour, the Krell surrendered. The war without dawn, 3 centuries of death, vengeance, and despair, was over. But victory didn't feel like triumph. When the fleets returned home, the soldiers of Earth didn't celebrate. They mourned. For every ship that didn't come back. For every voice lost in the silence between stars. Admiral Hayes met with the Galactic Council one final time. They offered her and Earth complete control of the rebuilt council. She refused. "We didn't fight this war to rule," she said. "We fought to end it. Now we rebuild. Together." And so, humanity took its place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as custodians. The Krell were allowed to live. Supervised. Guided. Not enslaved. For the first time, mercy replaced domination. Ambassador Thelnox recorded his final address to the council. He said, "The humans did not win the war. They ended it. And in doing so, they ended something inside us. The belief that victory must always mean destruction." Years passed. The galaxy healed. Children grew up never knowing the sound of orbital bombardment. Planets once blackened by war bloomed again. The Krell rebuilt their cities with trembling hands, learning peace the way humans once learned fire. Above Earth, in orbit around the blue world that had changed everything, the ship Valiant waited. Its captain, Lucas Grant, stood on the bridge, watching the quiet stars. Lieutenant Rodriguez joined him, as always. "Do you ever wonder," she asked, "what comes next?" Grant smiled faintly. "Peace," he said. "At least for now." She laughed. "You don't sound convinced." "I've studied history," he replied. "Peace never lasts. But maybe this time, it'll hold longer than the last." Outside the viewport, the galaxy shimmered with light. Worlds reborn, empires rebuilding, hope flickering where once there had been only fire. Grant watched them in silence. He whispered, almost to himself, "They thought we'd stay out of their war. They never understood. We don't hide from the storm. We become it." He turned to the stars, and for the first time in centuries, they were silent. Not with fear, but with peace. The war had ended. The age of silence had begun again. Only this time, it was not the silence of extinction. It was the silence of survival. The silence earned by those who dared to fight when no one else would. For the first time in 300 years, the galaxy could dream. And somewhere, beyond the reach of any star, humanity prepared for whatever would come next. Because that's what we do. We watch. We learn. We adapt. And when the time comes, we rise. The war is over. The Krell surrendered. And the galaxy breathes again. But the truth of it, the part they'll never say out loud, is that peace only exists because humanity refused to give up. We didn't fight for conquest. We fought because someone had to. Because every war needs an ending. And we were willing to write it. Now, the stars are quiet. Children grow up under skies that no longer burn. And somewhere, above that small blue planet called Earth, a single ship waits. Watching, listening, ready. Because history repeats. And when it does, humanity will be there again. Not as conquerors, not as saviors, but as survivors. If this story moved you, if it made you proud to be human, then share it. Let the galaxy hear it. Because in the end, that's how legends live. They thought humans would stay out of their war. They were wrong. This is humanity, forever. And this is our story.